And welcome to Talk Chain. Today we're going to talk about the U.S. Banking Committee from the Senate interviewing the guys from the SEC and the CFTC. Rob, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Market's doing great, so that means I'm doing all right.
It's good to hear. So, having an overall positive day in the markets. Did I say Talk Chain? Welcome to Talk Chain.
Welcome, guys.
Okay, so everything's doing pretty good in the markets. I see a bunch of green everywhere. Total market cap around 360 billion. Definitely a big step up from the 300 that we were looking at yesterday, but I don't know if it's based on any particular news. It seems like the only big thing, well, there are a few little things, but the big thing is really this Senate hearing committee that I watched a decent amount of it. Rob, what did you think?
I thought it was good. I thought it was positive overall. You can tell that the people speaking about it, Giancarlo and I forget Clayton, you could tell that they both understood the technology and they knew where it was coming from. They knew some of the sweet terms that we use in this game. So I think it's all very positive.
Yeah.
What do you
So
think?
Clayton is the chairman of the SEC, and Giancarlo is the chairman of the CFTC. And they wrote an article, I think, in the failing New York Times or the Washington Post, something, where they sort of like outlined what they thought about crypto and how they. I don't know. I feel like they have to give a ton of platitudes when they talk about this, so that part really kind of bothered me about the thing. But I was paying particular attention to their opening statements, and Clayton in particular said something that I think people should take away, and that he sees that every single ICO that's happened so far is under the purview of the SEC. So he thinks that ICOs aren't really ICOs, that they're really IPOs that are under the veil of ICO. And I think a little bit that's a misnomer, and I think it's just due to the fact that all ICOs shouldn't be treated equally, and that some of the ICOs are actually IPOs for the company behind them, but tokens that are actually have a purpose for the token themselves, I think could be in a different category. And I think one of those things, like, that's going to have to play out the more we get into this market as it develops more. But he sees that every single ICO is under the purview of the SEC. So I think that's going to negatively impact the number of ICOs that we see going forward, because he's going to expect that um, the amount of regulation that currently isn't happening in the ICOs, that's going to be brought to the level of IPOs that currently exist now.
Well, I think he believes that because of his definition of what a security is, and it's really just if anybody is getting involved for the whatever the thing is that they purchase to go up in value for them to later trade for more money than they spent. So from that definition, I can kind of see where he's coming from. But yeah, you're right. It's tough to know because there is such a wide variety, even like just between what like a cryptocurrency is and what like a crypto token is, and all different types of crypto assets. They're all used for different things, so it's tough to say that everything would be considered an IPO. But unfortunately, he's the guy kind of controlling everything, so whatever he says kind of goes.
Yeah, so I think that's why I think it's going to negatively impact the number of ICOs that go on in this country, in the United States. Because yeah, so he's the one running the show, and he came up with that definition of a security, which I think it's hard to come up with a strict definition, but he decided to make it that broad so that it would fit anything in the cryptocurrency world. So I don't know if you were to ask him 2 years ago to define security if he would have said the exact same thing, but given that he was there for crypto, that he decided on picking something that could basically be traded. And it's not fair for him to have said that, because there's a ton of things that aren't under the purview of the SEC that are traded for value. So I don't know. I think that was kind of it was convenient for Clayton to get into. But anyway, so the other thing that I thought was an interesting takeaway from Giancarlo is that he spoke about how his mandate does not allow the CFTC to regulate platforms that exist for crypto trading. but they do regulate the derivatives markets. And he mentioned 5 different ones, and I'm not really sure what the 5 were. I assume the CME and the CBOE futures markets, maybe the Gemini market is another one, but I'm not sure of the other 2 or 3. So that's where the CFTC might come in. So I think really those are the only 2 things that these 2 organizations see that they have a role in playing right now, unless they come back with people later to actually call for legislation in this area.
Well, that's what they talked about, that there are gaps with who controls what and where everyone's jurisdiction lies. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I think it's probably going to end up, there's going to be some sort of like crypto asset committee at some point, if the sector grows to the extent that they could think that it might. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds.
Yeah, and Giancarlo also mentioned a couple things that I thought were interesting. So just so everybody is aware of the risk that's out there, the CFTC, I wrote them down because this is all stuff that they don't have to do right now because they're not under the mandate of the CFTC. Capital requirements, platform safeguards, market surveillance, cyber protection, all of this stuff has to happen in the derivatives markets, but they're not regulated in the crypto platform exchanges. So we're kind of getting away with a lot right now. At least the platforms are. They don't have to put in infrastructure that accounts for all of this yet. So I think it's something to be wary. At least the exchanges or the platforms need to watch out for in the future, because if they do get regulated in this way, it's going to add a lot of hurdles to their business model, because they're going to have to come up to the standard that the CFTC wants. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, it's tough because people say that they want this unregulated market, but this is the sort of stuff that like will occur if it does get regulated. So people that want that sort of security, you could tell that they're kind of in the wrong space, even though there are a significant amount of risk to being involved. Like you're taking some risks with the profit that you intend to incur by getting into the crypto space.
Yeah, and I don't know if everybody is aware of that necessarily, but I don't know, some might argue that the regulations that exist right now are overkill, and obviously they're overkill to an extent because we're not seeing as much fraud. Like, we're not seeing a crazy amount of fraud in the crypto space as compared to other equities and stuff. I don't think, like, we see fraud all the time. Even one of the guys, the Senate guys, mentioned that HSBC and Deutsche Bank were fined for market manipulation. So it seems like this stuff goes on whether or not there's regulation in place or not.
Well, I think his point was to say that it was never really enforced. Like they were going to do something about it, but decided that because it was like kind of a one-off, they never really followed through. So that was kind of disappointing. But yeah. I think, yeah, kind of the overarching theme of the hearing was about consumer protection for people who do not put any effort into learning about the space and don't put any effort into learning that there is no regulation, that the market, that it's nothing like finance is nothing like the New York Stock Exchange, and it's ridiculous that they would even assume so just based on how easy it is just to make an account.
Yeah, I think that's why everybody sort of looked at it that way. Like, you see things trading on an exchange and you think it's the same as the New York Stock Exchange, but it was sort of illuminating to see that it's very much not the same thing, and it's much higher risk in this crypto world, which everybody's seen in the swings of things, but not necessarily outright in terms of the amount of due diligence that exchanges need to do, nor do these companies need to do when they're bringing in a token to trade.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and one of the things that I thought was also interesting was when Clayton said that if people are marketing the crypto assets, so they kind of use an example of Floyd Mayweather and I forget whatever he marketed, but saying that people who were marketing these tokens were just as liable under securities law as they would be if they were to promote some sort of stock. So it's interesting to see the implications for someone like Crypto Nick, who obviously promoted BitConnect very hard and it ended up being a Ponzi scheme and it all kind of collapsed at the end. So I thought that was an important one for people to take in, that that if people decide that they want to advertise certain things, there are some repercussions that they could be held liable for. So, and they could be named, and CryptoNick is named specifically in this class action lawsuit. So it's good to know that the SEC is willing to back the investors somewhat.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. One of the things that I got from it is that they really seem like they're not looking to shut down crypto. They're looking to protect people. And you got that impression when they brought up their kids being involved in crypto. So it seems like they kind of get it from that perspective, which I thought was good too.
Yeah, just saying that they want to support the technology and support the things that the next generation is enthusiastic about. It makes it interesting, and it's good that these people that Giancarlo and Clayton both have access to people who kind of have a better understanding of it than themselves. And it even seemed like a few of the senators anyway had a decent grasp of what was going on in the crypto space. So it's not like it's a bunch of people making decisions who know nothing about it.
Yeah, there were some senators that impressed me. There were some that disappointed me. I thought Elizabeth Warren's performance was very self-serving and not related to crypto at all, but that's typical Senator Warren. I thought Senator Kennedy did a great job. He really brought it when he asked the guys if they had bought any, when the last time they bought a security was and if they read the prospectus. I don't know if you caught that, but
yeah, I did. No, it's interesting because the same argument is made about whether or not people read white papers, and I assume it's a small minority of people who are actually going front to back on these.
Yeah, and for him to really take my opinion a little bit with it, which is that if we overregulate too much and force a bunch of disclosure, it's not going to do anything, and it's just going to add a bunch of red tape that prevents the technology from moving forward. And I think that if the governments regulate too quickly, that's what could happen. And I think that's what Andreas Antonopoulos said when the Canadian government interviewed him about crypto and how regulation should proceed from that.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And they even talk about how they moved too quickly with the futures market on that too, where they gave them access to that probably before they really should have, just due to the fact that it's crazily unstable right now. And they emphasize that by saying that Bitcoin's dropped 60% in the last week or last month. So you can tell that it's still kind of growing, and people aren't really sure about what to do with the entire space.
Yeah, it seems that way. But overall, I think it's positive. They sort of hinted that they might come back with other regulators to add legislation or ask for legislation if they need it. So we didn't see any additional calls for legislation, which I think is the big takeaway, that everything's sort of business as usual, and we got a clear idea of where the mandate of these two institutions lie.
Yeah, it's really important to kind of have an idea of where they're going to go, and just to know that the people that are in charge of it, while they're not enthusiastically saying to get involved, they are saying that they understand that there is potential for significant growth in this space.
Yeah, definitely. So what did you think about the hold thing? Did you know that was the definition of hold, Rob? Because I personally just thought it was when people type hold too fast, they put the D before the L, and I had no idea it was an actual abbreviation.
Yeah, so for those who missed it, when Christopher Giancarlo mentioned that his 30-year-old niece said that HODL stands for hold on for dear life, I think he is misinformed, but I believe it's really just from one person misspelling during a significant dip, and it just became an ongoing meme that somehow has survived years of crypto. So I could be wrong on that, but but I'm willing to bet that his niece and he is slightly incorrect on that, because I've never heard anyone say that it's an acronym for anything.
Yeah, me neither. So everybody who's out there watching, please let us know if Rob and I are off on this, or if HODL actually is an acronym or abbreviation for something. But I think Giancarlo is wrong. And I feel like somebody's going to compile a really great video of all like the hilarious things that they said about crypto, just one-off things that they said about how volatile it is and hodling and all sorts of great stuff that you would expect with old people talking about crypto.
Well, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how some news outlets put it together, and whether or not because you could really interpret it either way, especially with some of the questions that the senators were asking about, like pump and dumps, and
Oh yeah.
whether or not people actually put the time into reading prospectuses. And yeah,
Yeah. So
it
we'll
can
see.
go either way, really.
Yeah, true. Anyway, that's all we got for you. Keep looking out for Bitcoin, guys. I don't see any more bullish action necessarily coming. I don't know if you're making any moves, Rob.
Not making any moves, just hanging on. Icons popping. Back, we're up 45% today, so that's a slight recovery off of my 80% drop.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm still holding everything. I haven't sold anything, or I'm still waiting for my deposit to come into coin or GDAX, so I'm probably gonna make some moves as soon as that happens. But because GDAX is a piece of garbage, I still have like 3 more days to go. But this daily candle on today is pretty high. It's almost double the volume that we saw yesterday. So this could either mean that we're in another bull trap and we have more action downwards, or we might see a reversal. But until we break more towards the upside, I am not gonna make any predictions. We are in a world that I don't think I'm ever gonna make predictions accurately again. Remember when I said 20K, Rob?
Yeah, no, I think you might be like 1 for 20 so far. So you're batting about 5%. It's doing all right.
Yeah, hopefully that'll improve in the future. But thank you
Yeah,
guys
you called that bull trap though. It was impressive.
Thanks. Hopefully
Yeah.
that continues. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let us know what you think of the video. And oh man, the lights just went off in my room.
share on Reddit, share on Facebook. That's it for today, guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.